Let's return to This Week in America. Here's your host, Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody. Coast to Coast. This Week in America, rescued by Alana Brayboy, is her story. A young woman whose innocence was viciously robbed from her. The story of a child who endured atrocious sexual, physical, and emotional abuse from a very young age up until her teen years. Her story chronicles the dark and painful years stripped from her childhood due to the severity of the ordeal, the bumpy road towards eventual recovery and transition to clinical therapy, victim counseling, and awareness advocacy. Alana is 42 years old, a survivor. Her journey through recovery has instilled a burning passion within her heart to help others break the crippling cycle of abuse. She is currently a clinical therapist, working with mental health and substance abuse, hosting seminars to raise awareness of the very real and traumatic issue that unfolds for some of individuals who suffer all across the country, some who have suffered, and from people all over the world. Her mission, helping others in their journey to recovery and educating those who may be potential victims of similar abuse. Alana Brayboy, author of Rescued, our guest on This Week in America. Alana, welcome to the program. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be on your broadcast.
Well, I just really appreciate you taking the time to be with us and to talk about your experiences and being able to help others. And let's talk about that. The motivation, the inspiration to write this book. It's one thing to live this life, but to actually decide I can help other people by sharing my story. What was the inspiration to write this book?
All my life, people would tell me, Alana, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. And when I went through my master's program, we had a human development class that we had to write a thesis. And after I wrote that thesis, my professor asked and told me, have you ever thought about writing a book? And I said, no. And he goes, well, I would encourage you to. Your story is about one of hope and about forgiveness. So that's kind of what inspired me to write it. Working through therapy, working through my trauma gave me the inspiration to want to help others.
Talk about writing the book and the impact it had on you. You needed to go back and really lay out what happened to you to be effective and relatable as you're telling your story. How did that impact you? Was that part of the healing process for you, do you think, sort of unconsciously getting into that? But did that help you as well, going back and recounting and dealing with all of this?
Absolutely. As I had to go back and look through it, it was very painful. There was parts I had to take out. You have to look at everything and know, okay, this is what I want to keep in. This is what I want to take out. As I was writing it, it was a good tool to help me in therapy. It kind of honed in to the areas I wanted to deal with and heal from. It was a difficult process, but at the same time, it gave me a sense of hope to know that I didn't have to hide anymore, that I was going to help people, that I didn't have to keep that secret anymore, that I was able to express my feelings, my emotions in therapy, and now to help others in my book.
Alana Brayboy is our guest on This Week in America. The book is Rescued. It's available the usual places, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. If you go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, you can link on directly to information on Alana and the book Rescued. In writing the book, it really seemed to empower you to become an advocate, and something you deal with on a daily basis now is abuse awareness. Talk about that. I know this has always been important to you, but it really seemed to strengthen that desire, didn't it?
Yes, absolutely. As a therapist, as a survivor of abuse, by me writing my book gave me the power that I could take that power back. That as a child, I thought I lost. I thought I was never heard as a child. And now for the first time writing this book, helping other people, now it's given me the power that I can help other people, that I can have a voice that I once thought was taken from me.
How important is that to give yourself the power? I know that's something that you deal with. Talk about the importance of that to you, that it's important that you and other people realize you're in charge. You're in charge of your life, of yourself.
Through therapy and just writing the book, realizing that, first of all, you're unique just because you are who you are, That makes you unique, number one. Number two, that I have a voice. I can be heard. And when I realized that, my therapist, everybody in my book in Rescued, that took the time to hear me, that took the time to believe me, that took the time to believe my story, that was so powerful to know that this was something that happened to me, and there is hope and there is help out there, that I didn't have to hide in a dark place. I didn't have to run away from my pain, but I could face it in a therapeutic, helpful way, that now I am able to be bold enough and courageous enough to have a voice to speak and to reach out to other people, that there is hope and they can get help.
Well, and part of that is not letting others define you. How important was that for you to come to that realization? I'm Alana. I am me. Nobody is going to define who I am.
I think growing up, when I was 8 years old, and it's in my book, the main source of it was definitely my faith in God. At 8 years old, in the book, who I thought was my mother, Mary, she passed away. And in that time, I would just cry and ask God to take away the pain, take away the tears, which ultimately at that time I felt a sense of peace. At that time, I felt like there was some sense of security. And if it wasn't for God and all the people he sent for me, I probably wouldn't be able to have or know who I truly am. That really, like I said, just to know that there is an answer, there is hope. And also another factor with that was one of my favorite singers is Whitney Houston, and her song is The Greatest Love of All. And knowing that you have to find that love within, and having faith first gives you that key to really realize, okay, I can love myself. And so that song, I loved music. That was a big influence in my life growing up, a huge distraction as I went through the abuse. And that song, I would just play it and realize that I can love myself. And then with the faith and other people in my life that were so helpful, they taught me how to love myself as well.
Alana Brayboy is our guest on the program. She is the author of the book Rescued. The book is available wherever books are sold. We'll give you information throughout the program and link on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Something else you talk about is attachment. Explain that and why that's so important, especially in the formative years of a child.
Yes, attachment is crucial, especially when you're just being a newborn and stuff, because again, it gives you that sense of identity. It gives you that sense that you can bond with somebody. If you lack that sense of attachment, if you lack that sense of bonding, you're not going to be able to move to the next step in development. So let's go back to Erickson, the stages of development. One is the love and the security and the belongingness. If you don't form that as a child, as an infant, your next stage of life is going to make it very difficult to move up in the stages of development.
Alana Brayboy is our guest on the program. That's Brayboy. We're talking about her book, Rescued. Talk a little bit about the book, sort of the goals that you hope to achieve and are achieving by the reviews that you're receiving, because it's really impacting other people. What was your hope as you were writing Rescued?
Just to reach out to give the people hope, that there is hope, that yes, abuse is very horrific, very tragic. It should never happen. However, we know in today's world, it does happen with human trafficking. So again, just to reach out and let people know, first of all, they have a voice, and your voice is very powerful. And if you were abused in the secret, you can release that secret, because there are people out there today that want to help you, give you the courage to come out and tell your story, because it will help so many people. As I was writing the book, the beginning of the book tells you obviously my story. It's pretty horrific, and the first probably 5 to 6 chapters are very tough to read. But then I also do some education about bonding, about attachment, how you get out of abuse, the effects. The effects of abuse can be very tragic. It also influences your physical, your emotional health. So it gives education on that, and ultimately how to break the cycle of abuse. And also, ultimately, I want my book to get out there, which it already has been helping so many people to let them know they have a voice. And once you have a voice, that gives you courage. And once you have courage, you can come out and silence, break that silence that you're not a victim anymore, but you're a survivor.
Part of the success of the book, I believe, is the title, Rescued, because it's so simple. Once you hear it, you remember it, it makes sense, it registers. Sometimes there's a tendency to get a little too cute as you're putting a title on the book. Talk about Rescued, how you came up with that, because it really tells the story.
As I went through my life looking over it and stuff, it was very difficult for me to come up with the title. With my spiritual or adopted mother, Ruth, I asked her and she gave me some ideas, and we both talked about it, and we came up with the title Rescued, in the sense that at 8 years old, I was definitely, well, no, I'm going to back up. Excuse me. When I was born, I obviously, as the story will tell, my biological mother was a drug addict. And at that time, I was blessed to be rescued by woman, Mary, who she rescued me. And then when she died, God rescued me. And then from then on, it was just God sent so many people in my life, even today, that just helped in that process of rescuing me from abuse and trauma, and have given me the voice and the power to come forth. And now to help others. My goal is that I can be that agent for another person, to help rescue them, to teach them, to give them that voice and that courage that they can break the cycle of abuse.
And I was just going to say, you're continuing this chain of rescuing, and the book is Rescued, and that's exactly what Alana is doing. Alana Brayboy, the author of the book Rescued. What's it been like writing this book, the whole process of writing the book, telling your story, inspiring other people? Looking back on it now, what's it been like? I said that past tense. I'm going to say, what is it like? Because this whole process is continuing by you're telling your story, people reading and responding. What has this been like for you?
It's been such an awesome journey. I will tell you this, now that I read a book, I have so much more respect for an author. You don't realize how much an author goes through until you write a book yourself. The time, the determination, the dedication it takes, the sacrifice. In the beginning was really rough because, again, going through my story, it was painful. Knowing what to take out, knowing what to put in a book, making sure you let other people read it for proofreading, that is huge. Going through the whole production, getting it published, who to pick to be a publisher for your story. I learned so much in the process. I learned that there's so much, if you're going to use it for an educational tool, you only need so many pages. I never knew that before. And it was very scary for me. I remember when we were going through it and I put it in and they kept emailing me back and forth, my publisher. And then they said, okay, this is your final thing. It's going to go live. And when that happened, I literally told them, hold on. I needed a week to think about it because I was so vulnerable, because now my story is going to be out in the whole world. And so I had to work through that scary process. And once I did, it was just out there. So just the process you go through with writing a book, it was very awesome. I recommend it. If you have that gifting, go for it. But it's also a work in progress.
Time is going by so quickly. I want to talk about just a couple of the aspects of healing from a trauma. What can you do to heal through that? And trying to summarize that in a couple of minutes is probably unfair. But talk about what you went through in healing from trauma. And this is a journey, I would assume.
Absolutely. It's definitely a journey. Like I said, my faith was the biggest part of it going into it. I didn't start counseling until I was in college, until my master's program. So again, my faith in God really helped me through healing, sending people that would pray for me, giving me that safe environment, letting me know that, Alana, for the first time, I can talk to somebody. Somebody can look at me and tell me they care and they love me and I can trust them. That was the first step with my faith in God. My second step was going through counseling in my master's program. That was very vulnerable. I didn't realize how much I suppressed. So again, the counseling part of it was very healing. But my recommendation on healing would be that people that have been through abuse, the first thing you always want to let them know and give them is safety. make sure they have a safe environment, because if they don't have a safe environment, the trust is not going to be there. And so the biggest ingredient to healing would be you need to build safety and have them feel that they can trust somebody.
How important is that for victims to seek help? And how difficult was it for you to come to that realization, this is not right, and I do need to seek help? I would think that would be very difficult to make that determination and then to implement it.
It was very difficult because I always felt ashamed. As a child, I thought I was the only one that went through it. I remember as a young child, I remember if I could just tell somebody and they could help me. I just wish somebody would know what I was really going through. Just the shame of that, thinking I was the only one and who would believe me and who would like me. There's a huge shame to that. So again, working through that shame and just realizing, like I said, if you can trust somebody to hopefully just tell that secret, get it out, break the silence, and know that there is so much help out there and hope. Now that we're dealing with human trafficking, that's on a whole nother aspect. It's close, but it's different. But just to break that silence. And if anyone ever suspects anything with a child human trafficking, anything out there, please call Child Protective Services. Your voice, don't be afraid of getting in trouble, because your voice can save a life.
Talk about, you deal with it in the book, what to do if you're suffering. In just the few minutes we have left in the program, what happens if you feel that you've suffered from, that you've suffered from abuse and trauma? Is that something that you can live with? Does it ever go away, or should they be seeking help as well to put all of this in perspective and maybe get rid of some of the guilt that you talk about, maybe thinking this is something that I did that caused this?
Absolutely. Please reach out to get help. And I understand it's so painful to do, but if you can reach out to a friend, if you're in a church community, reach out to a pastor just to say, I've been abused in the past as a child, because again, without processing it, you can only repress it for so long. And what happens, so many people suffer from flashbacks, PTSD, and without getting help, without processing that, it's ultimately hard for it to go away. It really doesn't go away. What happens is, you might repress it. And me working in the clinical field, working with mental health, what happens is you push it down and you push it down. And then what happens is other symptoms come up. So maybe, it's not coming up right now, but let's say you have a breakup or you have a death in the family. All those feelings are going to come up, and it's going to make it very difficult. It will intensify the current situation that you're in. So yes, I encourage, reach out to somebody you feel safe with, somebody you can trust, and just even look at them and say, I need help, but I don't know how to go about doing it.
So if somebody says, this was 20 years ago in my life, it's 2 decades, it's 20 years, I have to live with it, that's just not true, is it?
Absolutely not. No, there is always hope, and there's always help. And especially, like I said, in the world we live in today, there is so much help and there's so much awareness to break the silence for abuse and human trafficking. And again, that is my passion. And that is probably one of the most reasons why I wrote this book, to educate and to help rescue others that have been severely abused and traumatized.
The book is Rescued by Alana Brayboy, working with Reader's Magnet and getting this word out there to so many people with amazing results. What has it been like to work with Reader's Magnet?
Reader's Magnet is a wonderful company. They get right back to you. They're very professional. They're very helpful. They'll answer questions. I've enjoyed the experience, and I am so lucky that I have been contacted by them, and that they have taken my book and helped me on a whole second level.
Well, with their help and with all that you've done, with being an advocate and getting the word out there, you're doing remarkable things with remarkable results. It's an amazing and inspirational story, Rescued by Alana Brayboy. Has been our guest on This Week in America. The book's available at Amazon, the usual places. Go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You can link on and get all of the information. Alana, time has gone by too quickly. A pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate all your time, and thank you for helping me getting my story and my book out on another level.
It is a very important message. The book is Rescued, Alana Brayboy. Again, information available at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. And we're back on today's program after these messages.
This Week in America is online. You can visit our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Scott Pinkerton, Associate Producer of This Week in America. Jay Anderson, Segment Producer. Ben Watson, Webmaster. Otto Bechet, Director of Engineering and TV Production. This Week in America produced and is a trademark of Blue Funk Broadcasting, LLC. For information on all of our guests and to listen to this week's show, our website again at thisweekinamerica.us. And I'm Sean Bratton, Executive Producer of This Week in America.